Vikes Bites. Welcome back, 9 to noon. A deviation from the Howl with much more to come, by the way. Final hour, Kevin Lynch is going to be in studio.
Vikes Bites.
We got bits on the Howl that some talkers, including one involving Ant that I want to get to later this hour with the dynamic duo of the Friday Feast, PA in charge. But Vikes Bites, presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Elite product. You can shop online, thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. A box of meat shows up to your doorstep. Or co-ops, local Colburn's locations, and they support Dinkytown athletes. So it's a company, Clearwater, Minnesota born, and has grown greatly from there. They want and they appreciate all your support. So Thousand Hills, thank you. We also thank offensive coordinator Wes Phillips because as OTAs are underway, he was with the media.
And this was lost in the hysteria of the Howl is the way I'm looking at it. I mean, I didn't know Wes did a press conference, and so then I listened back to it, and there are some pertinent things here, not only as the now of Vikings football goes, but into the 2024 season. He chats extensively about Darnold, but we have a left guard proclamation coming, and we also have the mechanics of the rookie from Michigan analyzed and discussed, and a rather significant change they're working on to the way he plays the game. So thus, Vikes Bites!
Vikes Bites! So we put the Howl on hold and we listened to the OC Wes Phillips with the media this week.
Spending a couple of years with a veteran quarterback who knew the system, how much different is installing when you have a new quarterback just getting here and then also a rookie?
It's actually kind of good for us. Just in a way, it limits your off-season install where you don't feel pressed to get everything in, or hey, we've got to get more stuff in that maybe a veteran already knows that to challenge this guy. Like we can really take it, kind of A to Z, step by step. We always try to start at the beginning, but it's been good to limit the install a little bit and decide what are really our core plays that we want to make sure we master and can lean on during the season.
Taken just to the first steps of all this.
Sam's been great. As good as we could ask for. He's right where he needs to be at this point in the year. Asking the right questions. Still leaning on his experiences as well. I mean, he's played a lot of football, so he's been phenomenal.
How similar or different is that?
I think West Coast. There's some similarities. Obviously in concepts, but the verbiage is different that Kyle uses and from what we use. So just like any new player, even from college, kind of taking the terms that they're used to and crossing over and seeing what fits.
All that experience, where does that show up most on days like this?
If you've got experience with a concept, there's a familiarity to how you read it, your drops, whether we're throwing off plan or throwing off a hitch and how you reset, those types of things. There's familiarity there. And then the other thing that you see with Sam is just the arm talent, that gets thrown around a lot. But he was the third pick in the draft for a reason, and we've really seen it show up out here really since day one, since we got on the grass.
The system this year is, essentially the exact same as last year. How would you, explain any adaptation?
I think all systems kind of grow organically a little bit. You're trying to hone and detail and improve on the things you do, but also as you go through the off season and you're looking at everything you do and you're saying, okay, maybe we need to do a little less of this. Maybe there's some concepts from some other teams that we steal, whether that be NFL teams or when we get a good opportunity to watch a lot of college tape. So some of those ideas come up and, hey, did you see what these guys are doing? So those are all things you try to incorporate, but again, have your core identity and your system.
What's your impression of JJ and the way he's taken to some of these full team activities?
JJ has come in, he's been a sponge. He's been preparing. on his own. It shows up that he's working on his own. Everything we give him, he's studying it at night. And then on the field, you see the talent. The reason why we liked him were all those things. Really, the intangible part of J.J. McCarthy, the things he does outside the building and on his own to get better, but also you see the talent out here. You see the arm. You see the juice that he's got when he lets go of the football. So, again, it's real early, OTA 2, but we feel like he's right where he needs to be right now.
You guys said you wanted to work on his footwork, one of the first things out of the gate, and he already seems to be picking some of that up quickly from just the outside looking in. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think quarterbacks come into the league in general, and the NFL is such a timing and rhythm-based passing game, whereas at times in college, and this is no knock on anyone's system, but at times there's a little more bouncing around or just kind of shuffling around. Sometimes even quarterbacks aren't really given drops. It's kind of a little bit on them to kind of feel it out and how many steps do I need to take to get this ball out on time? So, just defining those things, I think, helps these guys operate in the system. It takes a little bit on the front end to learn and adjust. And for JJ, we've got him with a left foot up stance, which is a little different for him. So just kind of adjusting, just how you're used to standing in the gun with your left foot up, or if you're used to more of a square stance, or some people are right foot up. So trying to get everybody kind of on the same page with how we do it and how it times up with all our concepts. But he's doing well with that thus far.
What's your reaction when you guys just were able to bring in Aaron Jones?
I was really ecstatic. Aaron's been a great player. He's a UTEP minor, so shout out UTEP. Second best player to ever play there, behind Hall of Famer Don Maynard. Okay, you thought I was going to say, all right. No, he's. I knew what kind of person he was just from my contacts. The football ops guy that was still there when he went to school there, had heard about just what a phenomenal human being he was, and then obviously the playmaking ability on the field. He can pass protect, he can run routes out of the backfield, and he can obviously run the football. So really big pickup for us.
Does his style at all affect anything that you guys have to do in the run game?
I don't think so. I think you just want to accumulate really good players. I mean, it is cool to say, like, thunder and lightning or whatever the contrast between two guys, but I feel like we have talented backs, with him and Ty Chandler coming on, especially late in the year last year, and then we'll see where the rest of that depth chart plays out. But I think you get as many good players as you can, and then you figure it out from there.
Is it almost like having teach tape on the field when you have Aaron that has so much experience and such variety in his game as you're coaching the younger guys? Like it's just right there.
Yeah, I think for us it's a great example to point out, but just him being who he is and how he operates and his experience, like. There's a lot of teaching and coaching that goes on between players that we have nothing to do with, because these guys have done it. They've experienced it, and just having that example for a young guy like Ty, who can do a lot of similar things that Aaron does, or at least we believe he can, as he keeps progressing, keeps growing as a player. It's just really great for him.
How are you viewing the tight end room with TJ still recovering, and then what does Robert Tonyan maybe add to that?
Robert Tonyan had a great workout for us. We signed him. It was kind of one of those workouts where you just watch the guy run and catch and understands what you're asking him to do from his experience. And it was kind of a no-brainer for everyone. Just looked around and said, yeah, let's get him. I think he's really going to help us, and obviously, with TJ being out, I think Robert can kind of fill some of those roles that TJ did for us. A lot of production from TJ that we're going to miss for a little bit, and I think he can pick up a good amount of that slack.
Coach, what have you seen from Blake Brandel and kind of his growth over the past few years and how he fits in with that group there?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Blake. I feel like he gets bigger every time I see him. He's just a massive man on the inside in there, but he's in great shape. He's always been very coachable. You talk about technique, fundamentals, footwork, hand placement, all the things that are critical for the O-line. One false step for an O-lineman could be catastrophe. So it's been very encouraging so far with him stepping in to that starting spot on the left there. And I think it'll only grow from there. The more experience, the more reps he gets. He's been a guy that anytime he's been put in a game at several positions has come through for us. And we haven't forgotten that, and I think he's earned this opportunity.
Vikes Bites! That was Wes Phillips, Vikings offensive coordinator, addressing the media during OTAs this week down at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center in Eagan. And
it was meaty.
When I listened to it the first time, and now even as I'm listening to it a second time, I jotted down a couple extra things that I want to hit you guys with. But I'm going to kind of work backwards from the start here and throw this at you guys, one of the last bits. And I don't think that it was a misspeaking moment from the OC. He just blatantly said that Blake Brandel has worked his way into the starting left guard spot. So there's a couple of different angles that I've taken on this. Do you think that that's been the plan, or is it the result of a failed pursuit elsewhere, the inability to acquire the services of someone else? I think some people, not shocked per se, but a couple of murmurs when you hear $3 and $9 million for Blake Brandel. How many snaps has this guy actually played? They must really love this this backup swing guard center type of bit with Mr. Brandel. But you heard it right there. He has worked his way as the starting left guard for the Purple.
And maybe it doesn't say a lot when you look at the other options that are on the team right now, because this is not a deep group of interior linemen to really choose from. So Brandel's got to be the guy, but maybe it suggests that, and the fact that they haven't signed Dalton Reisner suggests that they actually do like Blake Brandel. Right. I mean, maybe they've seen the growth. They've seen him have to play in spot moments, and they went into this offseason saying, you know what, if we're going to save money someplace, we're not going to pour a bunch of money into guard. We're going to sign Blake to a modest deal, and we're going to give Blake a chance to start. And maybe, for a kid who's been in the system, I think this will be his fourth year in. They just feel like they've seen enough change and maturity that they're comfortable with him as the starter. They see reps in practice we never see, and apparently they feel like he's ready to go. The fact that this team hasn't made a significant move at that position,
Dan Feeney, though,
reinforces it to at least some degree. Dan Feeney, though.
And by the way, you mentioned
Juergens, the rookie who can swing.
Yeah, there you go. And Rouse. What about Mr. Well, Rouse would be a tackle, I guess, or would they use him inside as a guard?
I thought about that because Rouse is, with all the starts he made at Stanford and then OU. I mean, I think we're up around 59, 60 starts in his collegiate career. That they're all at tackle. I mean, that's a big ask off all of that. So
that's a good point.
Seems like he would be the new Oli Udoh.
But and there you go. The depth still matters with this team as well, and maybe that's the spot they filled. With Dalton, though, you mentioned him. No other team has signed Dalton Reisner.
No, also odd,
and
right?
So, I'm starting to feel this vibe like we've had him on the show. PA, you did a podcast with him. Like, when I hear and see Dalton Reisner, I'm thinking, this guy's like the nicest guy on the planet. And statistically, he was a pretty damn good guard for this team as well. Something's got to be up. It's
got to be money.
I think it is. It's got to be something there. And, who's trying to stand taller at the 11th hour?
He fired his agency group and moved over to the Rosenhaus group. So he's with He's with Drew Rosenhaus, I believe.
Right. So maybe, that pushes it over the edge for him. But in the end, he's not here, and it sounds like there's some finality to that. So we can maybe just now roll forward with the mindset that Blake Brandel's our guy versus going, will they make a move this summer?
Well, and FIGA, Fairness and Guard Act, the with all due respect, because I'm quite fond of Ed Ingram, and his first season had some wind to it. Second season, which is a key season off your like the really good or the super gifted or gifted rookies, their second year they generally take off. Like that's what would be expected with Jordan Addison this year. Jordan had a good year, but I bet you there's better to come for that first round pick who's supremely gifted. Ingram is into his third year now. Okay, so I the assumption here is he is the starting right guard. But when you're going to have a new quarterback starting the season in Sam Darnold. You drafted a quarterback you're raising, and the offensive line, granted the bookends are high end with Darisaw and Brian O'Neill, and you drafted Juergens and also the tackle Rouse. But Ingram, I can't see that spot being this is carved in stone. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely his money. It's just because the left guard spot's going to get a switch. That's getting the focus,
Yeah, it's it is getting the focus. It's getting the focus right now, and it's also getting the focus of our quarterbacks. Right? We just heard Wes Phillips talk about Sam Darnold. He used the word phenomenal. He said, and the quote was, "Sam's been great, as good as we could ask for." Phenomenal about Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
You just alluded him being the week one starter. I think that's a lock. I think most fans listening believe that to be the case.
I said it early in the week. I think he's going to play every game this year. I mean, unless he gets hurt and the offense is not a winning offense, like playing winning football. And the example I used was like last year, okay, down goes your guy and with the Achilles. And
his name's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, down goes Cuzbuzz. Yeah. And so now here comes Dobbs, and that's an adrenaline rush. Then they asked him to pass, and it was hide the women and children. And then in came Jaron Hall, and the examples were truncated, specifically Green Bay and at Atlanta. Then he got hurt. But then like when Mullins came in, all right, now granted, they weren't winning, and we had some turnovers at inopportune times that lost games.
Yep.
But the O'Connell offense looked like the O'Connell offense with somebody who knew how quickly to spit out the plays, get in and out of plays and stuff like that. And that's just what I envision with Darnold is they'll be able to function the play action off Jones and run the offense with somebody who's super smart and is gifted and knows how to run the offense.
So Sam rolls in week one. I like your take. It's not preposterous that we're going to choose a rookie at pick number 10 and he doesn't start all year.
Right.
They've made it clear from the moment they drafted him. When you and I were in the stadium draft night, they were already saying, maintain. The expectations were JJ's not starting till he's ready. Yeah. Sam's our guy. And you look at what the position Sam drops into with the wide receivers, the bookend tackles, and the coaching staff here. Sam's probably going to play the best quarterback of his career. Now, that's not saying a lot because he's been like a D-plus quarterback in the NFL to this point. But if he can just get up to C+, B-, that probably keeps him in the driver's seat throughout much of the season, barring injury. And as you said, if the offense, even if the record isn't gaudy, if the offense is performing well, Sam stays the starter, and you get the luxury of putting JJ on this long runway to work out things like the footwork mechanics that you are rebuilding from scratch.
Out of the shotgun. Now McCarthy, up to the draft, O'Connell said 9 to noon, is of all the quarterbacks, JJ is either the best or at near the top for working under center. Mm-hmm. All right, the college game is just so much shotgun and got the weird hash marks and everything. But, the under center part, the turning the back on the defense, executing the play action, this is with the assumption that he handles that quite well of what we just heard. But the changing of the footwork out of the shotgun from all he knew or did, and Wes was like, this is, no affront or no disrespect to the offense he just came out of, but this is what we do. We think it's important. I mean, that's kind of a big change right there, man.
It's a big change. And, one of the things we talked about going into the draft, worried about Bo Nix and Michael Penix because they could have easily found their way to Minnesota, never under center. having a quarterback who can function under center, really, really important. I love that about him. But the fact that they're going to JJ now and saying, we want to rebuild your footwork mechanics out of the shotgun, it really tells you a lot about the long-term approach they're taking with JJ.
And the security O'Connell and staff have
Good point.
in their own skin, likewise for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, that they are afforded this opportunity. And lastly, and you know, maybe Kevin O'Connell has been peppered with this by media and I've missed it, but Kevin in 2019, I believe it was 2019, you know, he was the offensive coordinator for Washington with Dwayne Haskins, God rest his soul. And, you know, Haskins had to be raised in a hurry, put in when he probably was not ready.
For sure not ready.
And it may not even, you know, I don't know enough about the situation or the Washington situation. Maybe it wasn't O'Connell's preference, you know, but we're going to use him. And maybe it's Dan Snyder coming over the top being like, we're going to use him.
Right.
And maybe he wasn't ready. So, you know, I think I would imagine Kevin learned a lot from that experience with a rookie quarterback playing before he probably needed to play or should have played, and those Washington days when it comes to J.J. McCarthy.
So, I mean, look at what it took for Kirk Cousins to get comfortable in a KOC offense. And Cousins came in with, you know, all the experience that he had in Washington and the Zimmer years, and it still took him up until this last season to really get comfortable in Kevin O'Connell's offense. And by the time he went down, he was leading the NFL in passing yards, and I think he was second in touchdowns. I mean, he was having a career year, but it took that long. I think this is a sophisticated passing offense that puts a lot of demands on its quarterback, and J.J. McCarthy is going to be given the time to pick that up.
Vikes Bites, and around the corner will be Wolves Bites, and right now is the cash thing.
The Fan, along with BigDeck.com, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword green. You might win some with the keyword green at KFAN.com.
The Fan.
Here's Kyle Anderson yesterday talking about defending Kyrie and Luka in Game 1.
I think we left it to Jaden too much, or Rudy, or one man. I think it's a whole team effort when you're playing against two skillfully offensive guys like that. So guys got to be in gaps. It's going to take 5 of us to guard them. Just got to be a little bit more attentive.
First of all, I admit I've never heard Kyle Anderson talk before, and I picture Kyle Anderson, and then I hear him talking, and it just does a mix for me. But love the way that Kyle put it. Love the way Kyle looked on the court Game 1. As we return 9 to noon for some wolf bites.
Can we talk Kyle for just a second here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, because Nordo and I yesterday were kind of in passing, like, what did we miss here? I mean, there was a piece of audio. Dane Moore was a guest of ours yesterday.
Yeah, he's terrific.
In the pregame to Game 1, he asked Chris Finch a question about Kyle Anderson, and Chris, paraphrasing, was kind of like, well, yeah, we expect him to have kind of a big game tonight, and this could be a big series for Kyle. And I missed it. And so I'm watching the pregame, and Draymond Green, of all people, FIDA, Fairness and Draymond Green Act. I mean, he went for like 90 seconds on why Kyle Anderson is so important in the series because of his size, and Luka's not a lickety-split guard off the dribble like Kyrie, and Kyle is going to be a guy who should play. He was like he should play more than he's been playing. I've played against Kyle, I think he said, and is like, you know, he's a good guy to have in this series. Yeah. And I was like, okay.
I couldn't believe it.
And his Denver series was awful.
Well, and then he played.
Then he plays.
And they left him open here, kitty.
Beyond left him open, Paul.
Yeah.
The ball would get to Kyle, and the Mavs would scatter to other players.
They'd lay on the ground.
I'd go take a bathroom break just while he was setting up his shot.
Right.
Well, so then he gets the ball in his hands. There's nobody on him. And then he does this Jim Furyk-like wind-up with the hitch in it and everything. And you're like, oh, God, it's going to be a disaster.
Come on.
Shoop, it's in.
Yeah.
You know, what? And so it was an affront to Kyle. It was offensive to Kyle, what they were doing to him.
Right.
Just take your shots and from anywhere.
And we're going to let you set your feet, your wind up, and you're going to be wide open. And he swished it from the right corner. But then after the game, when Finch was asked about Kyle, he's like, yeah, I probably should have played him more.
Probably should have.
it's Kyle Anderson. And,
right.
But it's everybody's on it, except 9 to noon wasn't on it, but now we are. Everybody's on it. They were right, and it's going to happen again tonight.
It is, and I looked at it more. I appreciated the idea of the defensive aspects of that matchup, but I didn't see the offense coming. Off of Kyle Anderson, on to Anthony Edwards. Now, I'm not tinfoil hat guy, but I want to hit you with this and just get your thoughts on Anthony Edwards. So, he takes a hard foul in the early third quarter of Game 6, 9 minutes and change remaining. He ultimately stayed in, hits 1 of 2 free throws. He was 2 of 6 from the floor the rest of that game before being pulled. The blowout was on. You beat the Nugs by 45. Prior to the injury, he was shooting 56% in the series, something like 55% in the playoffs.
Yep.
Since that injury, he is 14 of 46 from the floor.
Geez.
That is 30% shooting.
Come on, man.
And 22 of those 46 shots attempted have been triples. So what I'm asking you is we got two and a half games, effectively. 2 games in an additional quarter, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone from 56% shooting in the series, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, to shooting 30% the last 2. He's 22 years old. He's playing a ton of minutes. He's chasing big timers on offense. Is there any chance that Anthony is carrying around something that we're not hearing about or talking about?
I didn't think about that.
Yes, there is.
I mean, like Luka Doncic, off what you said earlier about Murray. And, Murray had that calf, and then he was 3 of 18, and then, he heals it via a dispensary or whatever. And then all of a sudden, he's miraculously killing people off the dribble. Luka has a knee situation.
Yeah, you see it bleeding the other night?
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was bloody knee.
Was that Luka?
It was very Kurt Schilling-like.
Well, in the Clipper series and OKC series, he'd come out like he would low-key limp out of games. So he's playing with a knee situation, off your question earlier about the cadence of the schedule now, where game off, and so on. I just wonder how that's going to impact Luka Doncic, also speaking of injuries.
But yes, but specifically, yeah, absolutely. And Luka, so, how do you take advantage of that with Luka? Luka doesn't have to run and gun in the same ways that Jamal Murray did, too. So in some ways, he can manage that in the context of games. I loved how Michael Grady talked about, the way that they can find ways to give Luka a rest while staying in the game. And Grady put that, of course, into the idea of they got to find ways to do that for Anthony Edwards as well. So in the end, he's 22, and if it's the right age to be dealing with a nagging injury and being able to bounce back after a good night's sleep and some treatment, but there is a stark contrast now where the efficiency's down, the aggression in getting to the hoop is way down. Again, 22 triples the last 2 games. He hadn't attempted more than 8 the previous 5 games that he had played in the Nuggets series.
Yeah.
So now he's settling for those jump shots, not getting to the rim, not being aggressive, and again, 30% from the floor compared to 56 for the rest of the Nuggets series. That is that's a stark contrast post hard fall to the floor. That does concern me a little bit. So finding efficiency, finding that aggression, maybe the kid is playing with a hurt back of some sort.
Well, let's take it a step farther to our texting during Game 7 of the Nuggets series, where until Denver started missing shot after shot after shot in the third quarter, Denver was going to win the game.
Yeah.
Denver was the right side, and it was a 92%. Yep. Yeah, if they play, if they play 70% of what we're seeing right now, they're going to hold on and win. But then it went miss or stop, score, and that tidal wave just overwhelmed everything in the Mile Get High City. But when we were texting, it was good for Karl Anthony Towns because, Ant, he doubled. Who knows?
Right.
He's not the identity of the game.
And he's still trying to learn how to beat those doubles. And he's growing on the fly. Yeah.
And without Karl Anthony Towns in the first half, specifically of that Game 7,
it's over.
I just think they get killed.
You don't win without Cat.
But then when it started going and started rolling, Karl Anthony Towns off the dribble, getting to the basket, laying it up, dunking or whatever, was a major part of it. And that getting him to the basket.
Yep.
And like I said earlier with that Allen Iverson thing, man, just like Allen Iverson would get crushed. He's markedly more sleight of frame than Anthony, but he would make the basket. Lindsey Whalen was unbelievably good at this too. It's Anthony's good at it, but he has to get to the basket, get crushed, make it, go to the line. That kind of stuff, the crowd gets going, you get demoralized and everything.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that you brought this from Ant to Cat, because that was kind of where I was going with this. Anthony not shooting efficiently in game one, but he was finding other ways. I mean, the 11 rebounds, 8 or 9 assists, and again, top end, high end, super high end defense on these guys. So if he has nagging injury, if there's something behind, I don't know what it is, but Anthony is working harder than anybody on the court, it seems like, to be impacting and affecting. The Cat 6 for 20 in game one is the problem for me that I think can be rectified tonight. Yeah. And so Carl, if he can be more efficient offensively, then I think that helps a lot of things. Getting to the hoop would be an A topic as part of that.
When we had Michael Grady on earlier, TV Vox for the Wolves, he alluded to this. If you're going to ask Ant to put a lot of minutes on Kyrie, there's a trade-off here. Right. Those are hard defensive minutes that force him to expend a lot of energy. And then on the other side of the court, we want him to drive to the basket and work the ball in, and that takes a lot of energy. Right. A lot easier to hoist outside shots and, backpedal and go back on defense. So there's a trade-off there, and that's something that the Wolves are going to have to work out is who are you going to put on Kyrie, how much time, and what's that trade-off on the energy expenditure? Because Kyrie is going to make your life miserable, and you're going to have to work your ass off if you don't want to give up 36.
Okay, well, but it goes reverse, too, where whomever is guarding Anthony is supposed to get tired late because of all the energy they expend guarding him, and that assumedly would impact their offense. Now that's Derek Jones Jr. Okay, now he's he's their version of Jaden McDaniels. Okay, he's spindly, jumps really high, good on the lob, hits an occasional three, and is one of their better defensive players. McDaniels is a better defensive player, but Derek Jones Jr., quality defensive guy. So if his offense falls off a little bit, I think they're fine with that.
I'm sure that's a trade-off they'll take in a second.
That's the key to that, is Derek Jones Jr. getting tired is not going to hit them the way Ant hits us.
But see, with Karl Anthony Towns, I was when I'm watching the game, and we know how Karl plays. Karl is a stretch big. He's a unicorn in that he's a quasi 7-footer who can hit a high percentage of jump shots, fallaways, and 3-point shots. If P.J. Washington is checking Karl Anthony Towns tonight, I would like to see the prototypical, just think old school basketball when they would funnel it down to the center. He'd clap to get the ball, and I got somebody on me I think I can beat.
Oh, yeah.
Using Karl closer, because Nordo just mentioned efficiency with Karl Anthony Towns. It's like getting him going, pump fakes, get to the line, stuff like that. He's not necessarily the highest of high-end post players. And the Chris Finch and the offense, Pablo Prigione's offense, they don't necessarily like funneling it to the post and letting somebody do their dream shake is not exactly how the offense seems to be constructed. But P.J. Washington cannot stop Karl Anthony Towns. He'll get in foul trouble. He can't jump with him. He's not as tall as him. And P.J. Washington can be a defensive liability. So I just like to see Cat closer to the basket with some clap the hand, throw it down on the box, and watch him go.
Well, if he finds the right matchup, I mean, that's early Cat career with the Wolves.
PJ is the right matchup.
Where it's a big box score. And PJ, well, they're going to have to change from PJ because PJ is going to be in massive foul trouble. And so that's going to be but that's, if you can do that, that's where, if we can get back to in the paint, play some bully ball. Yeah. I'm trusting in Rudy, all jokes about hands, this, that, and the other thing aside.
When's the last time we remember Naz Reid going down to the block and say he has Hardy or Green or Washington on him? Give me the ball. Yeah. Watch me do my dream shake down here.
It's been so much about those.
That's not Naz Reid.
No, it's not.
That can be Rudy, but Rudy's overly mechanical sometimes with it.
Doesn't finish
and
that.
Gafford and Lively know how to defend that because that's how they play. P.J. Washington's the mark, man.
Yep.
He's the mark on defense, but it's getting Cat. I hate being second-guessing, guys. We just never saw it in game one. But getting him down there, clap it, give it to me, watch me go on my man, and then it's on Carl.
And I think he can work. And again, foul trouble to those big guys is going to play into it.
Yep.
And the 49 threes, there's no. I'm saying there's zero chance that happens.
I assume not.
So point
Stupid.
001.
Yeah.
That's the most triples they attempted all year
By
long.
9.
And they had 46
Wow.
in a loss to the Lakers and
Yeah.
45 in a loss to the Bulls.
All right.
Oh, wow.
But
hold on. Emphasis 45-46, LL 49,
correct.
L.
They averaged, I think, the third fewest triples. It was middle of the pack. I don't remember where it was.
Yeah.
It was just under 33 a game. So based on their average, big sample size all year and playoffs, they took 16 more triples than they would take in a normal game.
They made 12 more threes than Dallas and lost the game.
Tonight's the night, fellas. It's
crazy.
bully ball inside and a Game 2 W for the Howl.
Feed the kitty, and watch him burn.
I've been all right. How you doing, PA?
Good morning, PA.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Hi, Mr. Allen. How are you doing today?
Nordo hit on something last segment that has kind of triggered an age-old talker when it comes to like sports teams winning championships, and specifically basketball, and like an MB3. All right, so 20 years ago now, the Timberwolves got to the Western Conference Finals. Cassell comes up with a bad back. Kareem Rush hits 6 3-pointers in Game 6 at Staples, and there's your dagger, Johnny. But that was a Kobe and Shaq team with Mailman and Gary Payton and Augsburg go crazy. Devin George was on that team too, and he played a little bit of a role for them. But if you think for the Wolves, they had Cassell, Spreewell, and Kevin Garnett. They had an MB3. When the Golden State Warriors were high atop the beam, you had Steph, you had Klay Thompson. And then you would have like Kevin Durant or Draymond Green would actually fit in as an MV3. But like this year or even last year with the champions, Michael Porter Jr. played well in the finals and played well in the Lakers series. But I'm not looking at Michael Porter Jr. He's a half for me. So it's like you got Jokic and Murray. That's a 2, an MV2. Then like Gordon's a half, Michael Porter Jr.'s a half, and so on and so on. So you have Jokic and Murray. Now they're gone, but that's the context. This year, right now with the Final Four, Tatum and Brown. Now, Derek White is a high-end secondary guy who's kind of becoming the 3 in an MB3. But like Al Horford had a massive playoff game a couple of games ago, and, he's starting to become like a half to that 3. So Derek White actually may make it at MB3, but for the purpose of the conversation, Drew Holiday, he's not a 3, but he's so important to what they do with perimeter defense. He's part of the mix, but Tatum and Brown. And then Luka and Kyrie. All right. What would it be for Indiana? What do you think for Indiana? Halliburton and Miles Turner?
It's probably Turner because they use him more. I mean, he's almost, you talked about his blocks the other day. Yeah. I'd actually say, he's shooting threes, he's scoring, and the rebounds are down, so it might be those two.
What about Siakam?
It might Siakam, yes.
That's probably that is the right answer. That's the right answer.
And he seemed a little overmatched early in the postseason, but he's caught fire. So Halliburton and Siakam.
That trade was way underappreciated and reported, I think, when it went down.
What was it?
It's the Siakam deal.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't remember who was in it, but Indiana set itself up. They're not playing here now if they didn't make that trade.
Okay, so what about the Wolves? Anthony, so is it as easy as saying that the 1-2 is Edwards and Cat? Is it that easy?
Yeah,
okay.
Mostly, yes.
All right.
I mean, Jaden, defensively.
What about Gobert with the way the 1-2 doesn't have to be score.
Offense, right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So it is Ant Cat. Okay, that I believe that's the answer. But how much of it could be Edwards is a cinch. He's an absolute one, alpha. Gobert with what he does, rebounding, blocking defensively, or Anthony and the totality of the defense. And maybe that's the two in the MV2, or is it Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns? What do you guys think?
Well, and at the end of the Nuggets series, when asked who the most important player on the court was, he said Jaden McDaniels had the best series. Yep. And Jaden scored, in the first 5 games, Jaden is averaging like 5 points a game.
After game 1, when Edwards was interviewed, he said he basically apologized to Jaden McDaniels. He's like, Jaden's the only one that came to play.
Yeah.
And
he was right.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think you can put, it's still Ant and Cat for me, but but what Jaden does defensively is the offensive equivalent of having a 28-point game.
Yeah.
Just so.
It has to be Karl.
It has to
because
be.
Karl can block shots. I mean, Karl's not, we ain't talking Miles Turner meets Andre Kirilenko meets Dikembe Mutombo. But Karl, because of his size and his length, he can block shots. So, I mean, there is a shot blocking defensive element there.
He can, yes.
Right.
Well, and he had some great 1v1 opportunities against Jokic, playing without fouling. That I think were super pivotal in the Nuggets series as well. Yeah, Cat's
the 1A, right?
Cat. Well, yeah, 100% it is. But it is interesting to think about how this team has won games. Especially just in the last 20 minutes, talking about needing more efficiency offensively from both Cat and Ant. Why are you still in the nitty gritty of these moments and coming away with victories in some of them? Wish game 1 was one of those. And it is defense. It is Rudy, talking about the points in the paint, that stark contrast from game 1. 43 points in the paint per game when Rudy's on the court. 130 almost when in the 8, 9, 10 minutes he was off the court. That's a disaster. So is defensive identity in totality,
right?
What we're not seeing from Ant the last couple of games offensively, we are seeing it. I think he leads all players in the playoffs, lowest shooting percentage when being guarded by Ant.
So you said it's 100% Cat. I don't see it that way. I think he wins. I think it's the right answer. But, I mean, the way you're talking about that plus minus and what Gobert does and stuff like it's the point I'm getting at here is you better have that defined 1-2 if you're going to play in the NBA Finals. Because
it's Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
It's Tatum and Brown, and it's Luka and Kyrie. And those are high-end, defined 1-2 that are agenda-free, and they play off each other. And when Luka is getting fooled and making mistakes in the first half, Kyrie does it. And and kind of like Game 7 with Norderland I talked about, Anthony couldn't get going, Cat carried him. Maybe that's it.
By the way, talking about the 1-2s, is it weird that on a team with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown got the $300 million deal?
Right.
It's just like the dynamics over there in Boston.
It was like Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. It was,
I guess, a little bit of that situation.
But they franchise Brown.
But they have to. I mean, on a night if Tatum's not playing well, oh no biggie. Game 2, Jaylen Brown gets 40. I mean, that's not a bad. But
right.
I think. But it. So is it versus? Does it have to be? I think it has to be Cat. So those defensive moments that he's been excelling in.
Yep.
And then he just can't be 6 of 20 on a night when Ant's settling for 12 of his 16 shots outside.
Yes, sir.
While we're taking Boston, that now's got the 2-0 lead, and looks like they're going to coast through this series.
Nordo predicted sweep last night.
I think it's a sweep.
Yep. So, they're going to have, if the Wolves advance, and this is even a material discussion, they're going to have something like a week of spare time before they would face the Wolves. That look like this thing is going to go, many games deep for the Wolves if they are able to get through this. And they're going to get Porzingis back. They're going to be rested. And this thing turns into a grinder of a matchup that on a way that, otherwise you wouldn't necessarily get.
There's not a better when they're all healthy. There's not a better starting 5.
No.
So what are they? Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White, Porzingis.
Yes.
Oh, come on with that.
That's why you want to talk about coasting. They did that through the regular season.
Yeah.
So they faced as little adversity as anybody. Now, Porzingis is going to bounce off of Rudy once, and he's going to have like a sprained wrist or something, and he'll miss the rest of the series. But yeah, the unicorn when everybody's fully healthy, it's insane. But for us, thankfully, we for the most part have remained healthy as well. The 1A, it's Ant and Cat, but philosophically, the defense, it's the identity of this team. And I think we've talked about that. Like, do we need more offense in this game? What do we need from the shooting and all of that? The Bulldog identity of this team. Without the physical, we don't need Jimmy Butler. We are the Bulldog defensive team, and I think that's our identity.
Feed the kitty on the post tonight against PJ Washington, please. And watch him